What's the definition of Pokemon? Toys, cards, a TV show, video games, and a ton of other crazy stuff that takes over your life. It's Pokemon! Hey, I'm Evan. Today I'll be starting a series of videos about my personal Pokemon memories. You ready? I hope so. Because our very own adventure with Pokemon awaits. Let's go. My story begins all the way back in 2007, when I heard of this craze called Pokemon. At the time, I was pretty young, just in about 1st or 2nd grade. I had never heard of Pokemon until then. That's right, a 7-year-old boy in 2007 who's never heard of Pokemon. Yep, it's possible. So, how was I introduced to the actual mayhem and craze that is Pokemon? Well, in about mid-2007, I was at a friend's house, along with my mom and my sister. I was rummaging through what seemed like the deep depths of space and time. It was really my friend's closet. I managed to throw my little 7-year-old body on top of a box, and at the top of the shelf in the closet, I found a pink Game Boy Advance with a red cartridge inside. Of course, when I saw the color pink, I was like, "Burn it with fire!" and completely ignored it. It wasn't until later that day my sister rediscovered the little pink handheld that would soon change my entire entertainment lifestyle. Of course, since we were at a friend's house, the Game Boy didn't belong to me. I asked my friend if I could have it, and he said, "Burn it with fire! The pink! It burns!" So I took that as a yes. It wasn't until later that night that I found out what was inserted inside that little cartridge slot. I flopped onto my bed, flicked on that power switch, and boom, I saw this animation. That's my childhood right there. That's right, Pokemon Red was the first Pokemon game I've ever played, and the best. After I saw that intro, I knew I had found something cool. For the entire night, I played and played the Pokeballs out of that game. I feel lucky that the first Pokemon game I played was Red, one of the originals, let alone being what introduced me to Pokemon itself. I remember playing and playing all night until I had reached, which was to me at the time impossible, Viridian Forest. I remember spending an entire weekend in that stupid forest. Of course, nowadays, I can get through there in about 2 seconds flat. I would take that pink Game Boy and Red version with me everywhere. To restaurants, to parties, heck, I even went to the bathroom with it. Talk about dedication. It was the dawn of 2008. At the school playgrounds, I remember always talking to the kids about Pokemon. I had just at the time gotten into the Pokemon card game, which became one of my newest addictions, even more so than the game. Just check out this kid for example. Just imagine him, but replace his face with mine.
There's our Saboteur! Barbie!
Of course, it only took me a few months to beat the game for the first time. Anyway, back on topic. Trading cards? Yeah. The card game was completely awesome to me back then, and still sorta is. I remember the anticipation of waiting to go to the local Toys R Us, ready to run in and pick up as many booster packs as my little arms could handle. I would always have fun building decks, trading cards, and even pulling out my price guide and telling people their cards were useless, even if they weren't. I was such a troll. I remember going to my first Pokemon trading card game tourney, and boy was it fun. I was battling and battling. Since it was my first Pokemon card game tournament, I was getting beaten a lot. And I mean like Weedle versus Charizard a lot. It wasn't until I brought out my Delta Species Primate that I caused like 280 damage and beat this guy's Typhlosion. A couple tournaments later, I was skilled as lightning. At around the same time, I had gotten into the anime series, which was airing Battle Frontier at the time. I would also go to my local Blockbuster and buy a ton of the Series 1 VHS tapes. Sadly, that Blockbuster rests in peace now. Years with my beloved Pokemon went by. All the normal stuff happened. Schools banned it, the show became less and less entertaining, and overall, the games were just going downhill. So what was at the time, 10-year-old kid to do? Get into something else, of course. Yup, that's when my newest craze began. What is it? Digimon. Now, no need to start flaming. I still love Digimon to this day, along with Pokemon. All the wars over who's better or who came first, I think are just stupid. Back on topic. Once I had gotten into Digimon, I started to shun and hate Pokemon more and more, calling it a kid's game. Truth was, it is a kid's game, but I thought, aren't I a kid? And after that, Pokemon came back into my life. And what better way to restart my Pokemon obsession than go back to the classics? The classic games, anime, and manga, to me, are the best Pokemon has to offer. You get a strong sense of nostalgia when you experience the classics. Red and Blue are still my favorite games in this series. So yeah, thanks for sitting through my brief personal Pokemon memories. I hope you stay tuned for even more Pokemon awesomeness. All the way from Kanto to Unova, this has been KantoCast, your #1 source for Pokemon. Catch you later.